Yashodananda Vanachari Jamuna Tiradva Kunja Vihari Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jayam Vishvam Sabharajika Jaya Sto Devamrita Śrīmad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jayam Vishvam Sabharajika Jaya Sto Devamrita Śrīmad Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada Ki Gaura Premanandi. Which verse is on the board? Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 14. The story of King Vena, texts 8 and 9. Aho ubayata praptam lokasya vyasanam mahat darunyu bayato dipte Iva taskara palayo Aho bayata praptam Lokasya vyasanam mahat Darunyu bayato dipte Iva taskara palayo Aho ubayata praptam Lokasya vyasanam mahat Darunyu bayato dipte Iva taskara palayo Vaishnavis. from both directions.
From both directions.
Praptam, received. Lokasya, of the people in general. Vyasanam, danger. Mahat, great. Daruni, alag. Ubhayata, from both sides. Deepte, burning. Iva, like. Tuskara, from thieves and rogues. Paleo, and from the king. Translation: when the great sages consulted one another, they saw that the people were in a dangerous position from both directions. When a fire blazes on both ends of a log, the ants in the middle are in a very dangerous situation. Similarly, at that time, the people in general were in a dangerous position due to an irresponsible king on one side and thieves and rogues on the other. Text 9. Arajaka bayadesha krito rajatat arhana. Tatopya seed bayam twadja katam syat swasti dehi nam. Thinking to save the state from irregularity, the sages began to consider that it was due to a political crisis that they made Vena king, although he was not qualified. But alas, now the people were being disturbed by the king himself. Under such circumstances, how could the people be happy? Purport. In Bhagavad Gita, it is stated that even in the renounced order, one should not give up sacrifice, charity, and penance. The Brahmacharis must perform sacrifices. The Grihastas must give in charity. And those in the renounced order of life, the Vanaprasthas and Sannyasis, must practice penance and austerities. These are the procedures by which everyone can be elevated to the spiritual platform. When the sages and saintly persons saw that King Vena had stopped all these functions, they became concerned about the people's progress. Saintly people preach God consciousness, or Krishna consciousness, because they are anxious to save the general populace from the dangers of animalistic life. There must be a good government to see that the citizens are actually executing their religious rituals, and thieves and rogues must be curbed. When this is done, the people can advance peacefully in spiritual consciousness and make their lives successful. Om Gyanachimidandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshud Militang Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasari Gaura Bhaktivedanta. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. We have an expression today that someone who's in a difficult situation from all sides is caught between a rock and a hard place. Not a very attractive situation at all. And of course, this is what Arjuna felt in the beginning of Bhagavad Gita. Caught between a rock and a hard place. He told Krishna, I don't know what is better, to conquer them or to be conquered by them. If we conquer them, so many with whom we ordinarily would celebrate in victory, they're going to be dead. And of course, if they conquer us, that'll also be disastrous. Oh, Krishna, I don't see how any good can come from this. In other words, in chapter 1 of Bhagavad Gita, which is sometimes titled the Yoga of Despair, Arjuna was expressing that he had no options that looked favorable. Where is the good fortune that can arise from all this? But of course, Krishna had a different vision. And the whole Bhagavad Gita moves forward based on the vision of Krishna, which, of course, Arjuna accepted. Here in this verse, you have another way of saying caught between a rock and a hard place. Being like an ant on a log, and the log has fire at both ends. What can an ant do? How fast can an ant move? The ants are on a log, and both ends of the log are burning, and the fire's proceeding toward the middle of the log. What can the ants do? So this is the example Śrīmad Bhāgavatam gives about how the people under King Vena were faring. The great sages whose wisdom and austerity actually directs the whole kingdom, these great sages consulted, what are we going to do? They took ownership of the crisis. Often in material existence, as Prahlad Maharaj explains, the cure is worse than the situation you're trying to solve. Why did King Vena ascend to the top executive post? It was because the sages saw a crisis. Someone has to be in charge. Otherwise, thieves and rogues will run the whole country, the whole state. We have to have someone at the helm of the government. So they had no other option but King Vena. Even though they knew he was unqualified, they thought, this was their reasoning, at least, despite his cruelty and his extreme harshness, at least rogues and thieves and criminals will be afraid of him. Because in the absence of a strong leader, the sages noticed that thieves and criminals were overrunning the whole situation. So reluctantly, they directed that Vena should be king. Now, actually, the government ministers disagreed. The Acharyas point out that actually even King Vena's mother disagreed. Don't make my boy king, oh my goodness. But the sages felt, what can we do? We have no other option. You can understand the dilemma. Even sometimes in our Krishna conscious society, there are disagreements on how best to serve Krishna. But because they are disagreements about serving Krishna, these disagreements are not ordinary. So here, the sages disagreed with the ministers and King Vena's mother. One side was saying, no, not him. But the sages were thinking, we've got no other option. The people need to be protected. So what is worse, having criminals overrun the whole state, or having Vena with his excesses, his extreme behavior, in charge? They decided the lesser of the two evils is putting Vena in charge. It didn't take them long to regret that. Vena became so, as you would say in Australia, so full of himself. Normally, the king has mystic powers. In Vedic civilization, the king has mystic powers. The sages have mystic powers. But Vena thought that his power is his mystic power is simply his wealth and opulences. He had no personal yogic power. He performed no austerities. The sages had mystic power. And they're going to demonstrate that in this chapter. Vena became so proud that he stopped all Vedic yajnas, all sacrifices in the state. He's preventing the Brahmanas from doing what a Brahmana is supposed to do. Yagyavai Vishnu, sacrifice for Vishnu. He stopped the regulative activities of the people. In other words, how are the people going to make advancement without a regulated life? Our craziness these days is We have no idea what a regulated life is like. Without a systematic, regulated way of living, for people to pass progressively through the various phases of life, how's anyone going to be successful? But we think success means financial, social respectability, and finances. We have no idea how a real human being goes progressively through the various stations or phases of life and becomes purified and established on the spiritual platform. Because we have no idea of this, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Sri Nityananda Prabhu have advented in the darkness of Kali Yuga to spread the Hare Krishna mantra. In other words, the Hare Krishna mantra and its spreading means no one knows who they are, what they're doing. So chant Hare Krishna, and in that way, the situation can be straightened out. These sages had mystic power, and they're going to use it. You should be thinking, what are sages doing interfering with political affairs? Normally they don't. But out of compassion for the people, they saw the people are like ants on a log with fire at both ends. On one end is are the cruelties of Vena. On the other end are the thieves and rogues. So the sages felt for the suffering of the people. They weren't just staying aloof, like sometimes impersonalists or Mayavadis do. The whole world is false. We just stay aloof from it all. Nor were the sages like karmic workers who just busy themselves with making money and never mind the suffering of the people, as long as I've got mine. They actually felt for the situation. And so they consulted each other. What are we going to do? He's forbidden sacrifices. He's stopped the regulative activities. This is what they discussed. They're going to come to a conclusion. Their conclusion is based on saving the state from irregularity. This is a political crisis. It's not a crisis directly among the sages, but because they're concerned with the welfare of the people, they took the crisis on. So they're thinking, as we heard in verse 9, we made him king, he's not qualified, but now the people are so disturbed by the king himself. Under these circumstances, how can the people be happy? So we look at our situation in the world today. You have the apocalyptic twins, the twins of impending disaster that can strike any moment. On the one hand, you have nuclear weaponry. On the other hand, you have human beings intent on ecocide, destroying themselves by destroying their environment. So again, under such circumstances, how can the people be happy? But it's amazing how we think, amidst such madness, I will find my own contentment, I'll find my own satisfaction. But Bhagavatam is telling you it's not going to happen. Unless we live in a real human society which advocates regulative activities for people to make progress. How is anyone's life going to actually be successful? In other words, Śrīmad Bhāgavatam is presenting to us a different standard of success. We can see how much we've been brainwashed, accepting financial worth and social prestige and the amount of possessions we have. We take that as a sign of success. But we've missed the point. The sages aren't fooled by such artificial standards of success. They truly feel for the people. So even though normally they would not become involved in political affairs, during times of exceptional emergency, they roll up their sleeves, so to speak, and do something about it. They already did something about it, right? They made Vena king. Even though the government ministers and Vena's mother said don't do it. So now they're feeling the need to correct their decision. They're taking ownership of a problem. Their motives were completely good in putting Vena in as king. But still, good motives aren't everything. They're open to correcting the outcome, even though the situation is caused by good motives. To correct the outcome, they had to do something about Vena. You'll find out later in this chapter, they tried to correct Vena. They tried to instruct him. They made a last-ditch effort. They weren't very hopeful, but still they tried. Let's talk to him. Let's see if we can straighten him out. But Vena just totally, basically threw them out verbally. How dare you offend the king? I am the Supreme Personality of Godhead. At that point, the sages said, there's only one thing we can do. We've got to terminate him. Say, what? Sages executing someone? But they had mystic power. Simply by sound vibration, they could finish off King Vena. You see, during these times, lost to contemporary human history, during these times, the sages had mystic power and the king also had mystic power. In other words, the kings that are often described in Śrīmad Bhāgavatam had the Ashtasiddhis, they had the 8 mystic perfections. Not Vena. Vena simply had power and influence and ferocity and cruelty. But the sages, they had their mystic power. So the question is, taking the behavior of the sages as a model, what are we to do in today's situation? We see the people are being slaughtered by unregulated lifestyles. This is the best that human society can offer today. Unregulated lifestyles that destroy the physical health, destroy the mental health, destroy the environment, all while someone makes money. And they call that civilization. The human spirit is being destroyed. The finer sentiments of human life are being destroyed. The environment is being destroyed. Yet, because the money-making goes on for someone, we're foolish to accept that this is the standard of human civilization. The Bhagavatam completely disagrees. And you see that in terms of the response of the sages. We've got to do something about this. They're involving themselves in what you might say is mundane politics. But their motive is not mundane. They're thinking the people have to make progress. They have to have regulated lives. Otherwise, they'll never be happy. So by their mystic power, they're going to finish off Vena after trying to correct him. So we should think, well, what is our capacity? What is our role in society today? Following in the footsteps of the Bhagavatam sages, we're not completely aloof from the sufferings of the people, but what can we actually do about it? Srila Prabhupada comments later in the chapter that we're not Gyanis who say the world's just a dream and we just stay aloof in our little dimension. Nor are we karmic workers who say, never mind what's happening in the world, as long as I get my money, everything is fine. No, we feel for the suffering of the people, but we have no mystic power. What are we going to do? Who has the mystic power to just finish off someone by high-sounding words? No one has that kind of mystic power in this day and age. So what are saintly persons, or those trying to be saintly persons, going to do about the situation that the population of the world is caught up in? Our response is to spread the Hare Krishna mantra. We have no yogic powers of our own, but Kali Kale Nama Rupe Krishna Avatar. As Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita explains, Krishna has appeared in this age of Kali in Nama Rupa, in the form of his holy name. Therefore, our response to the mayhem of today that masquerades as a human civilization, our response is to spread the Hare Krishna mantra in the form of sound vibration and literary sound vibration. That will actually counteract the situation. So it's not that we're just standing aside and saying, oh, there's so much economic, political, and environmental havoc in the world. We'll just stay in our mandirs and chant. No. We are spreading the Hare Krishna mantra, which will solve the problems by getting to the root of the problems. The root is forgetfulness of the connection to Krishna. There's no kind of material adjustment that can replace the chanting of Hare Krishna. So we are deeply concerned. We're active. The Krishna Bhakta, the Vaishnava, is an activist. Just like in Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna was not idle. As Srila Prabhupada once quipped, it's not that Arjuna tells Krishna, okay, Krishna, you drive the chariot, I'll go in the back and sleep. No. Krishna told him, Mama Nusmra Yujam Cha, fight and think of me. So Bhagavad Gita is about activism. And similarly, as those following in the line of Arjuna, we're active. But how are we active? We're active for spreading Mahaprabhu's mission as the solution for the havoc that we're seeing all around us. So you can take inspiration from these sages, their considerations, deliberations, and their response. What to do? They did something. They're showing deep feeling for the plight of the people. You'll find this in a discussion between Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Haridas Thakur. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to know, how will these people in Kali Yuga, living in such internal and external chaos, how will they be rescued? How will their atrocious situation be solved? Haridas Thakur could understand the feelings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And it's those feelings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who's Krishna coming as his own devotee. It's those feelings that motivate us to reach out and try to improve the situation. This is very important. The heart of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu contains two things: the emotions of Srimati Radharani and unhappiness seeing the plight of the people in general. This is a hard thing to understand. How can Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu be unhappy being Om Purnam, the perfect and complete Supreme Personality of Godhead? It's not material unhappiness. This is something that cannot be understood with material logic and reason. How can Sri Krishna Chaitanya, who's Krishna himself, be self-satisfied, self-sufficient, beyond any question of material influence or material emotions. At the same time, how can he be unhappy? That unhappiness is not anything tinged by the material energy. It's a very special state in which someone who is completely self-satisfied and unlimited can actually also feel unhappiness at the plight of the parts and parcels. So Haridas Thakur could pick up on this. He understood the feelings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who was concerned not only how all the moving living entities can be delivered, but also the non-moving living entities. How can they be delivered? And what about the unmanifest living entities? How can they be delivered? Haridas Thakur explained that when you make a kirtan, a loud kirtan, you may hear afterwards an echo. But Haridas Thakur explained it's not really an echo, it's the kirtan of the non-moving living entities like the trees and plants. The loud chanting of Hare Krishna affects everyone. Haridas Thakur explained to Mahaprabhu, you already demonstrated the full potential of chanting Hare Krishna when you were traversing the Jharkhand forest. And because of your chanting, animals, not simply deer, but tigers, elephants, were roaring the mantra in ecstasy. So you've already demonstrated the full potency. Now we are not expected to make dogs and cats and other creatures dance in ecstasy chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. But we are expected to make an endeavor so that those human beings who are acting like animals, they can chant and dance. So that is our responsibility. We want to feel what Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu feels. Just like Rupa Goswami has written that prayer. Sri Chaitanya Mano Bhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupam Kadamayam Tadati Swaparantika. He's talking about establishing the mission of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu based on the feelings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And what are those feelings? Yes, Mahaprabhu came. He's Krishna, coming to taste love and separation. The existential state that the dearest devotees of Krishna feel in separation from him. Mahaprabhu is Krishna, coming to taste what it's like to be separate from himself, to be separated from himself in pure ecstatic love. But Mahaprabhu also came to rescue living entities from the horrors of Kali Yuga. So the feelings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that Rupa Goswami wants to establish are that everyone in all parts of the world has a chance to chant Hare Krishna, to live a regulated lifestyle and make progressive spiritual advancement. So all that missionary outreach that we're trying to do is proceeding from the feelings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who wants to see all the conditioned souls delivered. So this is what motivates us. We're not isolationists. We want to give the best solution to suffering humanity. So you're hearing about the sages deliberating, thinking amongst themselves, reviewing the situation. They're concerned. We spoke about how they took ownership of the problem. They're concerned that we could be implicated in this bad outcome of Vena destroying all regulative activities in the kingdom, malicious activities causing the downfall of the people. We could be implicated in this. We don't want any karmic reactions from this. We have to do something about it. And so they will discuss. And ultimately, they'll make a last attempt to correct Vena. He won't listen. And then they're going to execute him with their Brahmana Tejas. Because of their powers of austerity, the mantras they vibrate could finish off even a kid. We don't have, as we already discussed, we don't have such mystic powers. But Namarupa, the holy name, we're very determined to spread the glories of Krishna through sound, through books, through all kinds of media. And in that way, you're actually proactively addressing the chaotic havoc that's masquerading today as human civilization. So we are concerned. We do deliberate, just as the sages did. We do roll up our sleeves. We're not just going to stand back and watch people destroy themselves, watch human society destroy its environment, destroy its economic and political stability. But we know that there's only one solution. We recognize our limitations. We don't have the mystic perfections. Maybe some of you, yeah, you have some mystic perfections. But actually we have even better. We have Krishna who has appeared as his holy name. So that is our most practical solution that we can offer the world. So we're very motivated to do that. And again, our motivation is based on the feelings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Rupa Goswami understood those feelings. Haridas Thakur understood those feelings. And through Parampara, we also want to understand those feelings and act on them. And in that way, we'll get the best credit from Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Srila Prabhupada explained that using an example during conventional warfare, an insignificant country boy can join the army, go to the front lines, and become a hero. So similarly, we're insignificant, but we have the greatest opportunity to be recognized as a hero by Krishna. Simply tune into the feelings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is unhappy seeing the suffering of living entities in illusion. We tune into those feelings and we act to relieve Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu of his unhappiness. And in that way, our life becomes perfect and successful. So any questions? Yes.
Thank you for the nice class and encouraging us to take responsibility, more responsibility for the situation. My question is, how can we measure and actually improve on our efficiency in changing the situation in the world?
First of all, we are always thinking that the better, meaning the more pure our chanting is, the more effective we'll be. Secondly, we have to understand how to arrange situations for connecting with people so they can come in contact with devotees. Unless they come in contact with devotees regularly and repeatedly, they're not going to experience any transformation. So, because we're tuning into the feelings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as presented by Rupa Goswami, Haridas Thakur, through Parampara, we're concerned. How can people have contact with devotees? What can we arrange to facilitate that contact? The whole population. Our concern is not for the unmanifest living entities, or even the non-moving living entities. We're not Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But at least we should discharge our responsibility for reaching out to the whole population. And that means the whole population needs arrangements for association with devotees. That will make the difference. So the more that we have arrangements for bringing people in contact with devotees, we'll be able to see then how the medicine of the Mahamantra acts. So we just don't want to stay inside our very beautiful mandirs and have our pujas, our rituals, our kirtans. No, we want to bring everything out. We want to provide facilities where people can take the medicine of the Hare Krishna mantra, Krishna Prasad, Bhagavad Gita, Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. We want to consider what kind of arrangements do we need to make so that people can actually rub shoulders with devotees and gradually make spiritual progress. The more we do that, the more we'll see success. Yes?
I just spoke about having the motivation in spreading this message to the population. And when we're distributing books, oftentimes devotees, people take the books. Many won't take the books, but those who take, they often don't understand the books. And so then the results that we see are very, very slow. Then how do we stay motivated?
How do you know who's going to get that book eventually? You got it all figured out? You're the omniscient super soul? Those books go to amazing places and reach the right persons. And also, someone may not understand today, but 3 years from now, their circumstances may change. They pick up the book again and, oh, this actually makes sense. So how do you know? We cannot limit the Sankirtan movement by our mundane conceptions. We don't know how things are going to wind up. I was telling an example recently. Where was I? Oh, in Ukraine festival. A true story. There was what you might consider ordinary factory worker in an automobile factory in the USA. And originally he's from the southern part of the USA. And he drove down there, 14-hour drive, to visit his mother. And he was in the guest room. And he woke up one morning, 10 a.m. Just what you would consider just an ordinary guy, factory worker. Mm-hmm. None of you here want your children to be factory workers. You want them to be IT, bankers, doctors. Well, here he is, ordinary guy, factory worker. And he's laying in bed, wakes up at 10 a.m., and he looks, and over his head is a bookshelf with books on it. And then he as he opens his eyes, waking up, he sees, what is this book? Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. Couldn't pronounce it. I think I'll look at it. So he takes the book down and starts to read it. It was second canto. So he starts reading Shukadeva Goswami, chapter 1. Then he puts the book back and he prepares to leave to drive back up north, 14-hour drive, back to work at the auto factory. But the whole year, he was thinking, what was that book that I read? That Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. So he doesn't go back to his mother's house for another year, but the whole year he was thinking about it. So the next year, he drives back down there, and he got totally caught up in family greeting, meeting the family and how are you doing, this and that. He forgot all about the book. He's laying in bed again, forgot all about the book, and then he wakes up in the morning, opens his eyes, there's the book on the shelf. So he starts to read it, and this time he doesn't stop reading it. He keeps reading the whole thing. Now, where did that book come from? You know anything about the geography of the USA? He's in a state in the south called Arkansas. Anyone know where Arkansas is in the US? It's like, we call it in the USA the Deep South. Where'd the book come from? His cousin was stationed as a U.S. soldier in Germany and got a book. And brought the book from Germany across the Atlantic Ocean to leave at the mother's house. So no one had touched the book. There it was, just waiting for the right person. So how could you predict something like that? The person who got the book, you could say, had no interest, didn't know what it was, so failure. But no. The seeds are there. At the right time, they'll sprout. Of course, if you provide facilities for people to come and be cultivated and nurtured, that increases the possibilities of their taking the books more seriously in terms of quickly recognizing their value. That means devotee association. So consider it in that way. Yes, we distribute the books, get the seeds out. At the same time, you want to be more efficient, arrange facilities that the whole population can be cultivated. The whole population can be stimulated. Don't just say, oh, they don't have the appetite. Stimulate the appetite. I don't have much time, so I have to. We'll get back. Yes. Yes.
So regarding to this point, it seems like earlier in this movement, there were many much more hard-bound books, and now there's so many soft-bound books only. And I feel they don't last so long. What is the reason behind it?
You can get from the BBT the books you want. If you just order, this is a practical question, if you just order soft-bound books, that's what you have. Dr. Prabhu.
Maharaj, Prabhupada often said that with people of other faith traditions to chant the name of God in their tradition. As devotees of the Lord and pioneers and heroes, as you're saying, should we also do the same sort of thing? Encouraging people of other faith traditions to chant the name of God in their tradition?
Yes, if they're actually of another tradition. Generally. They got nothing going for them. But if they're actually following another tradition, we encourage them, please. Be true to your tradition. Chant the holy name as found in your tradition. Remind them of their tradition. Just like in the New Testament, the first commandment given by Jesus is, love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, with all thy might. And what's the second commandment? Love your neighbor as thyself. Except if that neighbor looks different from you. Or if the neighbor's an immigrant. The bodily conception of life influences even person's attempts at religion. We can remind them. The second commandment, love thy neighbor as thyself. That means you have to be off the bodily platform. You can't be put off just because your neighbor looks different from you. So we can remind persons. This is what your tradition says. What does Krishna say in Bhagavad Gita? Pandita samadarshana, seeing all living entities as equal, whether Brahmana, outcast, dog eater, we see the spiritual equality. So yes, if we find someone who is actually following a tradition, we encourage them, please, chant the name of God as found in your tradition. Follow your tradition. We are, in that way, non-sectarian. in that we encourage all genuine religious activity. But if no one is following any tradition, so why not then chant Hare Krishna? Yes, questions from this side? You have a very important question. See, even Maharaj, I asked him to, but all right, you're sure this is a good one? You give your permission? All right.
Maharaj, how do you get attraction for the chanting?
How do you get attraction for the chanting? Do you chant in kirtan? Do you dance in kirtan? Oh, that's how to do it. Do you take prasad? Yes. So chant, dance, and take prasad. And then when you're older, you can start reading the books. Maybe you read Bhagavad Gita now. How old are you? 6.
Turning 7 in October.
Turning 7 in October. An old man, aren't you? So yes, you're concerned with increasing your attachment for chanting? Dance and chant vigorously in kirtan, even when you don't feel like it. And make sure all the other little boys and girls dance also. I was watching them today. They were dancing, but they weren't chanting. I saw that, Gopika. You got to open the mouth while you're, and chant. Where's Nandai? Is Nandai here? Yes, I saw. You weren't chanting while you were dancing. I was happy you were dancing, but you're not chanting. Any adults? Questions? You're an adult? Yes.
The Bhagavatam, the sages had mystic powers and they'd like to finish king. Why can't they use the mystic powers to change his mind or make a man as a person?
He wouldn't listen. They tried. They explained to him, you're off the wall, you're doing wrong, and he just got even, it was like feeding milk to a snake. He just got even more angry. Don't you know who I am? I am the Supreme Personality of Godhead. At that point, they said, this is blasphemy. They finished them off. So they tried. Everyone has their independence, They did their duty and they tried as much as they could, but he refused. He got worse. All right? Yes.
You were mentioning today how we apply ourselves to regulations and how life gets so much better, and how it's a big problem these days. The society is so irregulated. Now, many people, they get books, they read, and they start regulating themselves, but instead of feeling happiness and Krishna consciousness, they take it as a burden and then they leave.
We need to have facilities for gradually bringing people along. Nourishing them, cultivating them. So you can take it as our fault. Feeling what Lord Chaitanya is feeling, if we're going to reach the wider population, we need to consider the facilities so that they can become nourished and gradually make progress. Maharaj, you have some final words?
Yeah, when you were saying about the effects of the books, I came across very interesting phenomenon in Russia, where Russian Orthodox priests, quite influential people, they actually read Prabhupada's books and they use certain statements from Prabhupada's books in their sermons. Like they explain that God comes from the word Bhagavan and he is the possessor of all opulences, and it's quite interesting to listen. So Krishna consciousness gradually infiltrates even in very influential tradition.
Thank you. So please remember, bhakti yogis Krishna conscious devotees are very emotional, but the emotions are based on solid wisdom and knowledge. Our feelings that we're identifying with are coming through parampara from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who can't tolerate seeing the illusion that has enveloped the world. So we want to do something about that. We think about it. We feel it. Rupa Goswami feels it. Haridas Thakur feels it. They want to do something about it. Similarly, through parampara, we feel it, we know it, and we want to do something about it. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.